Are you struggling to find distressed seller leads that actually close? Whether you're wholesaling, flipping, or building a rental portfolio, it all comes down to finding distressed properties and knowing how to talk to motivated sellers that are behind them. Hey, I'm Ryan Zomorodi, co-founder of Real Estate Skills. And in this video, I'm pulling back the curtain on how to find distressed sellers, the kind that most people overlook, and how to approach them with confidence, clarity, and care. I'll cover some of the best strategies for sourcing these leads, plus proven tips on what to say, how to say it, and how to earn their trust. Joining me today is Henish Pulickal, who's a seasoned real estate investor and agent with over 20 years of experience, and he's flipped a bunch of houses, so he's worked with hundreds of distressed sellers of all types. So if you're ready to stop chasing dead leads and start connecting with sellers who actually need your help, this one's for you. Let's dive in. So why do distressed sellers really matter to real estate investors, and real estate professionals?
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a great way to set a price that could be a win-win for you and the seller, and you can limit any commissions and stuff like that add to the costs, right? Because commissions can add 5, 6, 7% to the cost of a property, right? Mm-hmm. To be candid. So if you're a go-getter investor that can find these properties and work these deals and make a deal that makes sense, most people are okay with it, right? And you can explain the net amount of cash that a homeowner is going to get. Sometimes they're okay with 10, 20, 30, maybe $100,000, depending on how much equity, and that sounds fine for them. They've got a plan. They were going to move in with their uncle, or they were going to move in with their mom, or whatever it was going to be. And so I think it gives them an option where it's like a win-win, low stress. They only had to deal with you. They didn't have to deal with 100 people pounding through their house and home inspectors and appraisers and stuff like that. So I think it's important for investors to know how to do that, because in many markets, people are struggling to pay their mortgage. I can't think of any places that aren't any foreclosures. Mm-hmm. So regardless of whether you're at, anywhere in the U.S., there's people not paying their mortgage that need some kind of options, and they might not have the savvy that you do to help walk them through their options.
So let's talk about finding distressed sellers, right? We talked a couple techniques. How would you go about finding distressed sellers offline, right? We talked about a couple online methods. Anything that you can do without using the internet, the computer?
No idea. I've only used that system, since 2013 when I started targeting pre-foreclosures. We would use that to identify the addresses and then go door knock, and then go talk to them at the door, because the phone calls rarely work. They're getting hammered by everyone. The mailers rarely work. And if I can go face-to-face and create some rapport and sign some paperwork, that's going to win. And so I think that's the best way. You got to pay for these systems. They can be, $100 or so a month. But if you get one deal a year, that pays for itself.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the way we do it, and I've got people on my team that help me door knock, because it just creates some economy of scale, so I can have people knocking, 10, 20 doors a day times all week. And then if they can set up 2, 3, 4 appointments for me each week, that turns into sales.
And these are agents on your team who are
independent
incentivized
contractors. Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then I'll do a profit share with them and some finder's fee as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So here's some fee when you close. Here's some profit based on the third-party accounting bookkeeper, and everyone's aligned on the interests of getting the properties in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But then I still have to execute, get the project done, fix it up, sell it, pay for it all.
Right. So yeah, there are, I guess, some offline methods, finding distressed sellers. A lot of people talk about driving for dollars, or just kind of scouring neighborhoods, looking for those overgrown weeds, the peeling paint, right? Those are a little more, physical distress with the property. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're delinquent on their mortgage. You could go and door knock those sellers or those property owners. You might get tenants, you might get the homeowners, you might not get anybody. So it sounds like you're doing the homework ahead of time. You have the systems that allow you to generate leads, so that you and your team that you're delegating to can actually go more targeted, instead of just aimlessly driving around town and looking for beat up properties.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, before it was so organized, when I first started, I would look by zip code, write down, have it printed out, the 10 or 20 or 40 properties in that neighborhood, and then star them on my Google Maps and then make a pattern to drive to them all, right, and knock them myself. Or my door knockers do. But now they have it on the apps on your phone, right? You can get Property Radar on your phone and have a live lookup, and you can see on the map which ones are distressed. go right to it, get all the information, the homeowner's information, the liens, when their sale date is, etc., and have a detailed conversation with them. But along the way, if I see other ugly houses, I'm going to stop and talk to those guys too, right? I'm already here.
Yeah.
Half the trouble is driving there. So if it takes me another 1 to 5 minutes at door knock, then great. And if someone's having a conversation with me for 15 or 20, well, that's a win. Worst case, I spend 1 or 2 minutes walking up another driveway.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great time to talk about, how to actually talk to these distressed sellers, right? You're in some cases just showing up, or actually all these cases showing up unannounced. Maybe sometimes you have an appointment set up beforehand, but you're showing up to the house. It's a distressed seller. I mean, how do you approach these homeowners that are in pre-foreclosure or going through something?
Yeah, using the assistant frame is helpful, right? So typically I have door knockers going out there and starting the conversation with them. Basically something like, hey, I'm here to talk to the homeowner. Are you Bob Jones? And they'll say yes. What do you want, right? Hey, our company records show that you're late on your mortgage. You're having a problem with your mortgage company, and our company specializes in helping people like you. In fact, we've helped 5 people last month at no charge. Would you be interested in getting some help from us, right? And they'll be like, well, yeah, what are you going to do, right? And now I've got the opening, right?
Yeah.
Great question. Let me set you up with Henish, our main guy, who's an expert at this stuff, and he'll listen to your story and give you all the options that you have so you can review what you can do to save your house if that's what your goal is, right? And then start the conversation from there, right? And so usually that assistant or my door knocker, the independent contractors, that will do a little bit of edification. He's a great guy. He loves taking care of people. He knows what he's doing, and he loves to help people. Something like that, right?
Yep.
Right. And they're like, okay, cool, sounds good. And then a lot of times when I show up, they already have this impression of who I am. And ideally, I fit the bill because I am going to be a great guy and helpful, and I know what I'm talking about. And they're ready to sign up, right? They've already been told who I am and what to expect. And so it's basically a layup at that point. If I miss, it's my own fault.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. So you have these contractors. I'm sure you train them with some scripts, what to say. They have a brief conversation. Hopefully they get in touch with them when they go to the property, build some rapport, qualify them, pre-qualify them to make sure that they're a good fit to meet with you, edify you, build you up, posture you, and kind of present you as a solution provider, and then ultimately book that on your calendar, make sure that you guys have the right date and time, and then you come along and then have kind of the higher level conversation, provide solutions, walk the homeowner through different options, and ultimately see what the best fit for them is.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right. So having that kind of two-step works better than me showing up and saying, I'm really great at this,
Yeah.
But if someone else says it, it carries a little bit more weight.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's almost like, hey, I'm the lower man on the totem pole, man or woman on the totem pole, and I have this initial information. I just want to see if you're interested. Like we come to help, and then if they're open to that, then it kind of opens the door for you to come in, and so I really like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's the assistant frame. It works nicely.
Yeah.
Someone else sets your appointments. They're like, oh, this guy is important. He's got time for appointments, but doesn't have time to cold call for the appointments.
Right. Have you had instances where you or your assistants show up and it's kind of backfires, or you've had some negative emotional sellers who kind of kick you off the property, or is it usually pretty well received when you're door knocking?
For the most part, I've been pretty lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
I've had some people say some funny things, and then I can usually make a joke and get them to put their guard down pretty quickly. Once I knocked on the door of a probably retired Marine, and he's like, F this and F that and screw the bank, and they're not getting my house. I'm going to shoot myself and burn the house down. And I was like, oh, that's not great. I was like, you should probably do that in the reverse order, though. And he started laughing about that. Next thing you know, I was at his dining table,
Yeah.
Because I didn't think he was going to do it. He was just kind of posturing.
Yeah.
And, making that joke helped to kind of cut the ice a little bit. And he's like, okay, cool, let's talk, And so, very rarely have I had people slam the door on me. That everyone has excuses. Everyone has objections, right? And so that is a lot of training that I do, is to overcome the objection handlers, right? A lot of people tell you, your information's wrong. I'm on time. I've got it covered. This is none of your business. I've got an attorney, right? you've got the wrong info, et cetera, et cetera. So I've heard all these excuses, and I've usually got rebuttals to all those to try to figure it out and continue the conversation so we can dive a little bit deeper, right? And so it takes practice to get there, and you have had to have knocked at least 100 doors and heard all the excuses before you understand what the root of that is and see if you can address what their real concern is, right? And so take some practice to get there, but like anything, you can't be good the first time you do something.
Yeah. All right, so really quick, everyone, if you want to analyze the types of deals we've been talking about with confidence, be sure to download our free deal calculator at realestateskills.com/calculator, and I'll leave a link in the description. It's the same tool we've been using for 13 years to analyze wholesale, fix and flip, and rental deals. Plus, if you want to learn how to wholesale, flip houses, and invest in rentals without spending a dime on marketing, then check out our free on-demand training at realestateskills.com/watch. Remember, both of them are 100% free, and you can grab them down below right now. Now let's get back to the video. So, I've noticed when, we're pursuing off-market leads, from distressed sellers, whether they're hoarders or, they're in a pre-foreclosure situation, we are competing against other investors in a lot of instances. So, how have you been able to overcome, competing offers on, even off-market properties that have multiple investors presenting offers, or, they're shopping around with other agents, really just kind of looking for the most money? Do you have any kind of strategies or tactics that you'd use to overcome other offers competing against the same house?
Work always, there's no fail-safe way to do it, but in this world where there's a lot of wholesalers that might not execute on a property, or there's investors that do bait and switch pricing, where they promise one thing and then on the day before the closing, they say they need a huge price cut to get it done. There's been times where I've done this a lot, and I can just tell one story from last year where I had a client that was interested in a property in Scripps Ranch, nice suburban neighborhood of San Diego for families and stuff. It's great neighborhoods. And he beat me to the house before I could get there at an open house. So there's an open house for this older 2,000 square foot big house. And he got to it and said, "Hey, save your time. Don't come over here. It's too much work. I'm going to pass on it." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But when I heard the words "too much work," I perked up and I said, "Let's go take a look," So I went and took a look, and it was just standard cosmetic issues that I figured I could fix for about a couple $100,000. I budget about $100 a foot for my remodels to do them right. I don't do the lipstick on a pig. I change everything and upgrade everything and get it done. And so I said, I can put a couple hundred into it, and I think someone will pay more than most houses in this neighborhood because it had a unique lot. It was in a corner. It had a 100-foot driveway that was tree lined. The house is tucked behind all the other houses that were street facing and didn't have as much privacy as this one did. Had a putting greens, had a half-court basketball, had the pool.
Oh, nice.
Had surrounded by eucalyptus trees. It was beautiful. And so I called that listing agent, maybe on Monday after the weekend showings. She's like, "It's too late. We've already got, 16 offers. We're way above list price." I said, "Oh, that's great. I'm glad that worked out. Hey, if you've got an extra minute, maybe I could share some things that have happened to me to make sure you don't make the mistakes that I've made." Right. And I try not to give people advice anymore, but I'm like, let me just share some stories real quick. She's like, "Oh yeah, sure. Tell me." She's like, "Hey, I've had investors do bait and switch pricing where they'll offer something high and then the last minute they want a $100,000 price drop to close. And that always really upsets me, and I wish I never started with them and I didn't vet them out, or to prevent. And so I gave her some other tips of things to look out for, and sure enough, a few days later she called me back. She's like, "You were right. The investor tried to do all these things last minute. I don't like that at all." And she agreed that she didn't like it, and she was a savvy enough agent, but didn't have too many fixer listings like this in Scripps Ranch because there's not many like that in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
usually those houses are pretty well maintained. And so this was dated. And so she said, "Yeah, if you can come in and close this thing, I'd love to give it to you." And so I wasn't even in the original offers, but because I was just able to share some experiences with her of what to look out for, she valued that and took my offer. That worked out great. Another house that I bought for 1.1, we put 200 into it, and I sold out for 1.7.
Wow.
So that one worked out well. And now she was so happy with how I handled the situation, how I treated her, and how the quality of the remodel was, that now she is forcing everyone else at a brokerage to only talk to me about selling investment properties, which is a huge win, to get that kind of reputation there. So that worked out. And so I think that, if you can, there's a lot of agents, whether they're new or experienced, that might not have the experience of working with a dated property or a fixer property, and some of the hurdles that you can go through with that, with picking the wrong buyer on it.
Yeah, it sounds like you showed up, you were genuine, authentic, shared your personality, your expertise, and really just the reality of working with wholesalers, with some flippers that have other tactics that may not be as ethical or as transparent and straightforward. Sometimes gives our industry, investors kind of a bad name. And so you kind of come in as the knight in shining armor and just say, hey, if something happens, like, you can call me, I'll take care of it, we're good to go. And ultimately you'll get that call.
Yeah.
And sometimes get a great deal out as a result.
It was an interesting one because, investors a lot of times do have a bad reputation. There's a lot of home flippers in any market that do a less than stellar job of remodeling. And so sure enough, I think it was the day or the day after I closed on this property, I got an anonymous letter in the mail from a neighbor. Dear crappy flipper, you're probably a crappy flipper. I've already reported the house to code compliance. You better get permits.
Oh, God.
Right.
Wow.
It was the short version of it. I was like, oh, man, because when we're doing finishes, you technically need a permit for anything in San Diego.
Yeah.
But it's a huge delay, 2, 3, 4 months it can be delayed. So, well, I was like, all right, well, let's get it done. It's a nice neighborhood. It kind of warrants it. Let's permit whatever, whatever we need to permit, windows or electrical or whatever we're going to do. And we got it, and it delayed it 2 or 3 months. But it just coincidentally, it pushed us into an even hotter market by the time that delay helped. And I probably squeezed an extra 100 or more out of the deal because it like peeled into the beginning of this year as opposed to late last year. So trying to sell during November, Christmas time is more difficult than trying to sell in like a January or February.
Right.
So, it was kind of a blessing in disguise to get that letter.
Yeah, it worked out. They were just trying to, encourage you,
Well, I'm sure Dom or their family member had bought a house, like that. And then, over the months and years they lived there, found all the shortcuts that the investor took to make it look pretty, but not do it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you guys do phenomenal work. I've seen some of your flips, and it's really top notch.
Well, I mean, I have own a licensed construction company, and so we just have to. There's either medium good or good. There's no like cheap good.
Yeah, because if you're flipping a house, right, it's almost like in a showcase of your construction company's work at the same time. Because you're typically showing what you do, demonstrating it, and so I'm sure that also attracts some business for other fix and flippers, other people looking to renovate their properties. So it's almost like a little bit more pressure on, hey, let's do a really good job on this thing.
Correct.
To showcase.
Yeah, and it helps out, when the home inspector says, this is the nicest flip I've inspected, right? And the realtor's like, oh, this is great that we got you the nicest flip that we've inspected, And so, it's relevant and it helps reputationally because I don't want someone to say, oh, I bought this house from this guy Henish and he bondoed all the wood and, and covered up all these issues and we found all these hairy things, painted over foundation cracks, whatever it was,
Well, Henish, this has been great. I think we covered a lot. This is really a masterclass on distressed sellers, and you bring such a wealth of experience on the agent side, the brokerage side, the construction side, lead generation. Really being an investor and developer yourself. So this is definitely an honor and a privilege. Where can our audience learn more about you, and if they're interested in any of your services, where can they go to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can look up my name, Henish Pulickal, and I'm pretty easy to find on social medias and LinkedIn's and Instagrams and stuff like that. Otherwise, my company name is Cal HomeCo Construction and Cal HomeCo Real Estate. Also easy to find here in San Diego if you type that in. So happy to connect and chat with anyone.
Perfect. Thanks again, Henish. We'll chat soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you want to learn more about how to start and scale a real estate investing business, just go to realestateskills.com to learn more.